Touch the words of my tongue, O Lord, so that only the truth may be spoken, and only the truth heard. Amen. Please be seated. One of the things that I have been able to do over the last few years in ministry is run a group called Beer and Bible. And this is a group that before me was run by Marty Levesque, who's now serving in Waterloo. He used to be at St. Andrew Memorial. And at that gathering, we would typically have a group of us get together and get some beer, obviously, bless the beer, open up the scriptures and see what we can find. And normally, we have a theme that goes on. So this month has been the Gospel of John. Thing is, there are some months, due to scheduling and other things, that not a whole lot of people show up. And so often, if we only get one or two folks, as we did this month, then instead of doing the whole theme and sort of throwing the group off of kilter, what we do is we take the 2 or 3 people when we open up the lectionary readings for this Sunday. And so most of what I'm going to speak about this morning comes from that gathering, comes from those ideas and those people that opened up the scriptures with me earlier in the week. It's interesting when we open up the gospel passage, what we hear from Luke. Over the course of these weeks in Lent, slowly but surely, all the players that are needed to set up the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus are being put into place. And so what do we hear this week? This week, we hear about some scribes and some Pharisees who come to Jesus and they are afraid. They are afraid because they know that Herod, who is the client king that looks after Jerusalem and Judea, they know that he is getting a little antsy about what Jesus is preaching. And if Roman history is any indication in the land of Judea, we know that when the people are stirred up, often the governor or client king would step in and great bloodshed would ensue. And so the scribes and the Pharisees, wanting to protect the people, wanting to protect their place as the teachers of the law, come to Jesus and they say, "Go, get out of here, for Herod is coming after you." And it's important to note, too, that in the gospel story, this is not the first time that Herod has come after Jesus. For if you will recall, when Jesus was born, it was Herod who ordered the slaughter of the innocents, who requested and told his troops that all the firstborn of Israel should be put to death, so that no other king could come up and replace Herod. So the threat of violence, the threat of bloodshed is very, very real. And yet, when Jesus hears this, he echoes something that we hear often in the Psalms, including the one that we sang this morning, and also Psalm 27. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom then shall I fear?" When Jesus hears the news that Herod is after him, a choice is placed before him. Either he can respond to the fear and run away, or he can put his trust in God, turn his face towards Jerusalem, and follow his destiny. When Jesus is confronted with the response of fear from the scribes and the Pharisees, he is the one that says, I'm not going to fear Herod. I've come to do the will of my Father, to heal the sick, to proclaim good news to the captives, and yes, even to go to that place where they kill the prophets and stone those who speak the words of God. Jesus responds not with fear, but with love and with tenderness. The image that he uses is that of a mother hen who, like the Father, desires to gather us all in under his protection, his mercy, and his grace. And if you comb through the readings for today, you'll find that this theme of trust is found at the very center. And I think it's important to note, too, that the trust is not always at the forefront. It's not always forthcoming. For when God gives the promise of an inheritance to Abram, where he says, I will give you the land to possess, and I will give you descendants to inherit all your wealth, Abram says, sure, that sounds great in theory, but I have no heirs of my own. I'm 99 years old. I have no son. My heir at this point is a slave in my household. How am I going to pass on all of my wealth and all of my prosperity? How is the promise going to be kept? And so God, hearing the words of Abram, makes a covenant with him. He says, I will be with you. I will keep my promises. And I will keep you in my heart. And the promises that I keep for my own sake. Notice that when Abram goes to give the sacrifice, he falls asleep. God comes through anyway and consecrates the sacrifice. God says, I will be with you. I will give you everything that I have. What we are asked to do in this season of Lent, in these 40 great days before the Paschal Feast, is to place our trust in the one who formed us from the dust. To look at our lives and to look at those things that draw us away from the love of God and that cause us to come from a place of fear rather than a place of love, of hope, and of grace. If you've been paying attention to the headlines this week, I don't have to tell you that the world can be a scary place. And it's never a healthy response to come out of fear, to respond out of fear. Usually, when that happens, communication breaks down. People forget who they are and whose they are as beloved children of God. Christ, in the readings today, reminds us that it's important to place our trust in the one who loves us beyond all telling. I pray that as we go forward in this liturgy, in this week, and indeed throughout our whole Lenten journey and beyond, that we, like the psalmist, can say with confidence and with boldness, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom then shall I fear?" Because when we come from a place of trust, new life can take hold. When we come from a place of trust, all of the things that seem scary about the world, they still remain a challenge. It's not like they're going to go away. But our response becomes one that is filled with love, hope, and grace. So that we, when God offers us the chance to be gathered into his presence, to be upheld, to be comforted, that we take it with joy. That our fears are no longer the driving force in our life. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom then shall I fear?